right, we're about to go. So let's do it. All right, we are live for another episode of What the Fuck Just Happened. This is episode 17, and we are, well, here in Maryland, we're under a winter storm warning as another round of snow. Don't know what the amount we're going to get. And from what I heard, we are getting a combination of both snow and ice, so it's going to be treacherous. I wouldn't say shout out, but prayers to the folks out in Texas experiencing this type of snow. And I think having the whole power grid shut down now, there's probably going to be an investigation over it. So that is a crazy situation. So you guys, hopefully you guys make it through that. Also the Midwest, who usually gets snowstorms. It's been crazy. Here in Maryland, I've been hoping for this type of weather, but for the states in the continental lower 48 I'll say 47 because obviously Florida make that 46 because Florida and Arizona apparently aren't experiencing this at all. 45 because California. Either way, the more I think about it, the more it's going to count down. But anyway, this is the type of winter I tend to expect here in Maryland. So welcome. Trying to... So why we are here this week, because we are going to tackle, I'm going to say this right, I'm going to say it perfectly this time because I butchered but mastered what I was trying to say on First and Frame Rates last night. We're tackling cancel culture head on. It's not a recent trend. It's literally like the oldest concept in the book as far as a form of censorship. I feel like it's an overreaching form of censorship, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. First, let's take care of some of the admin. So, like I described last night, I'm one of the feature panelists here. Well, not here, but they're over at First and Frame Rates. We go live on Twitch every Tuesdays and Thursday evenings at 7:45-ish, sometimes 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So that will be VF, myself, and Bill's Fourth Room. Usually we talk about sports, video games, and any other topics. Just to let everybody else know, we also do Q&A over there, so don't be afraid to ask questions. So make sure you guys tune in to that every week. It's over on VF Baller's channel on Twitch. And also shout out to VF Baller. Make sure you check out his channel as he continues to stream out the wazoo. So we try to give him to stream the Black college football experience, but apparently he has a limit. And I never thought it's a football game, right? So anyway, so just check us out Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7:45-ish on VF Baller's channel. I've been picking up on the writing side again. So if you want to check out any writings, not necessarily samples, but posts. Oh, there's that neat little, okay. VF was telling me about that. All right. So if you want to check out any articles I've posted, there's my blog site at dj81.org. And for those that are wanting to know where they can find me, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can check me out on Twitch, here on Twitch, EVO325. If you're wondering if I've done anything on YouTube, then you can find me here. So, and once again, if you want to, I'll have that scrolled at the bottom at your leisure, obviously. So, that being said, let's talk about some opening thoughts. Now, let's get to people in the chat. So, Bills is here. That's good. So he's here. Thank you for coming through. And Mr. Ham shows up. He's probably been here before. Is this your first time coming through? Because always the more the merrier. But this probably a good episode to join in because I know you guys have a lot to say. Bills, I know you definitely have a lot to say when it comes to cancel culture. So opening thoughts. All right, so No Man's Sky came out with an update today. It was a companions update in which now you can customize, you can nurture, you have pets now that could travel with you on the planet, your home planet, you can go to the anomaly and show off your pets in a base setting, or I don't know. You can summon your pets wherever. You can have up to 6 pets or whatever. You can customize them. You can disown them eventually, and if you take care of them long enough, you will have a next generation of said pet. So this was the first update, and it's called the Companions update. It's out now. It's live on all platforms and consoles. This is the first No Man's Sky update that they can miss me with. At least miss me with this when right now I currently cannot paint my starship, not the cruiser that that's expensive as hell to get the paint for. I can't paint or visually customize my starship, my original companion in this No Man's Sky adventure. So until you guys at Hello Games figure that out, I probably won't be adopting any pets anytime soon. So, they can miss me with that. Like I said, it's the first Hello Games update of No Man's Sky that I'm not in favor in because I haven't seen anything done with, our personal starship except increase the size of it, which I think I still have pictures for before they increased the size of it. And there's also some other things they have to take care of. Like since you guys did increase the size of the ships, they don't go into the bases, the space stations, and your freighter properly spaced. You tend to morph through walls and stuff like that. There's something that maybe guys should take a little bit more thought about when increasing the size of the ships. I love the size of the ships now, but come on, you gotta think about everything else. But we out here customizing pets. So now tonight also is Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. And let me see. So I know Bill says he's just editing a song. Well, good luck with that. And Mr. Ham is like, just got finished working out, just checking in for a little bit. Well, hopefully I don't get a gun pointed to my head like I did the other. I think it was last week. With Bill was talking about, you better entertain me in 2 minutes. That's basically what it felt like. But anyway, all right. So we're just gonna get right into it since we're about almost 12 minutes in. We are going to tackle cancel culture. Now, what is cancel culture? Anybody in the classroom want to chime in what their view of cancel culture is? Feel free to. My thoughts on cancel culture, what it is, it's a form of censorship. It's not necessarily, and anybody could partake in it. It kind of gives you a feel of a mob chasing down 1 or 2 people because their opinions don't exactly line up with the overall social norms. So it's just like it's like a system. I wouldn't say a system of checks and balances, because the people who are perpetuating cancel culture feel it is a system of checks and balances. They feel like if the norm is, let's say, if the norm is to believe that the sky is blue, then everything's okay. But what if somebody comes along and looks up, like one or two people, and they have a different opinion? It looks purple. The group that is in favor of the norm of the sky being blue will, it's basically, they're at odds right out the gate. But what happens is that they try to silence the group that's saying the sky is purple because it doesn't line up with what they believe. So what tends to happen, what should happen in these cases, a discussion should be had. And if there's no resolution, disagree to disagree, and everybody lives their separate lives. And the two sides can coexist. One side believes one thing, one side believes another, and that's that. That's it. But no, what happens is that the side that believes the sky is blue wants to reach into the lives of the people who think the sky is purple and affect shit in their lives. They literally want to get these people fired from their jobs. They want to silence them and prevent them from even having a different thought. Now, there's a right time and there's a wrong time to invoke this. The wrong time is basically what's been going on a lot. People are just using cancel culture to just explain their immediate reactions to what people say. What is it? It's one of those things where, like I was saying in the example, people at this moment in society, it's not left at agree to disagree. It's like, no, you can't say that because that's not what the overall opinion of society thinks. So you need to shut the hell up, or we're going to get you fired. We're going to let your employer know that they're working for somebody who thinks the sky is purple when everyone knows the sky is blue. So I would say that's my definition of cancel culture. And like I said, it's not a new concept. It's been around for generations. There was the Salem witch trials. If you want to talk about here in the United States, if you want to talk about the United States, you have the Salem witch trials. You have those that wanted to muzzle women when they were fighting for the right to vote. Cancel culture came after African Americans for wanting to be free. And I'm like, cancel culture takes up whatever mob wants to use it to silence the other. KKK is a form of cancel culture, trying to discourage Black folks from voting by killing us. You want to talk about overreach? Yeah, I think killing somebody is definitely overreach. So Bill chimes in, says cancel culture is the systemic silencing, muzzling, and suppressing of differing views based on established agendas. Yeah, basically social norms being used to silence others, but going further. I'm like, it's one thing to all of a sudden you stop listening. That's one form of silencing the other, but you're not affecting them. But the moment that you reach into their lives and affect their lives because they have a difference of opinion, then that's where cancel culture goes too far, and that's a wrong time. Like, let me see. A recent example, not necessarily, I'm not going to get to Gina Carano just yet, because Gina Carano is the reason why I have this topic on my show, and we'll get to her in a little bit. But as far as the presidential election, and not even the main election, we'll talk about in the Democratic Party, there was a cancel cult. I knew that was going to happen. Cancel culture was used on one of the presidential two of the presidential candidates that were fighting for the nominee on the Democratic side. Bernie Sanders was one, but the one that everyone missed I think a lot of people miss because they were part of it was the censoring and the silencing and the disappearing act of Tulsi Gabbard. And the funny thing was about that, she literally was being canceled, not just by, society as a whole that didn't agree with the fact that she was balanced and nuanced in her views. They effectively removed her from, and I'm sorry, but Bernie Sanders did participate in it too. So, he got canceled, and then all of a sudden he was like, well, you can't beat him, join him. And that's what they did to Tulsi. Like, you can use smear tactics to try to silence somebody. That was used on Tulsi. Big tech plays a factor into it because all of a sudden you weren't getting proper searches of Tulsi Gabbard. You weren't getting, like, if you were looking to see the truth about her trip to Syria and who she spoke to, you probably would be hard pressed to find that information because it was being censored, especially if your location was the United States, because somebody did a research during that time and they just changed their location to a different country, and all this information popped out about Tulsi, free, whatever. But in the United States, if anything, it was mostly smears and a lot of liberal outlets. Now, I'm a liberal myself, but I do have conservative principles. So it's not even just about people being censored that have conservative views versus liberal views, because, like I said, both sides have used it. Recently, it's been mostly liberals that have been heavy-handed in doing it, even doing it to themselves. This is where I bring in Gina Carano. And it's funny because with Disney, we've seen this before. We literally within the same show, because before Gina was chased down and mobbed by cancel culture, they tried to do that shit to Rosario Dawson, and she's a liberal. They tried to can her with the transphobia cancel culture tactic, and it didn't work. And I think it was easier for her because she was a liberal, so she could be forgiven in what she didn't really do anything, but she was able to escape the mob. But Gina Carano, not so much. Well, one, she does have conservative views, and a lot of views that she talks about, I don't necessarily agree with, but I'm not gonna reach out and spend the energy to get somebody fired because they view life differently, or they make a comparison that that was factual, it's based on facts, and didn't really break it. The person didn't break any laws. The person didn't seek to offend anyone in her statement. But yet people found offense in it, and that keyword found offense, because you have to search half the time to find offense in some of the stuff that people do say, especially when it's factual. When it's factual, you definitely have to find the offense in it. So Gina, apparently the last straw for her was the recent comments that she posted on her Instagram, and it was in reference to the Holocaust. Now, apparently the Holocaust and not the transatlantic slave trade is automatic cancel for some people. You can't compare anything. You can't bring up, you can't talk about it, you can't you can't do anything with the Holocaust, but you can talk about slavery. You can talk about the transatlantic slave trade that lasted for almost 500 something years, that killed off generations and generations of people. But we can't talk about the Holocaust, especially when we're just talking about the thing that cancel culture. There I go again. That cancel culture was prevalent in the Holocaust. How you think, and she said it then, it was accurate that it took people of like-minded views to work together to round up people who were different. It led to one of the biggest tragedies in modern history. But that was cancel culture in in an extreme fashion. Like I said, I link that to more or less the Salem witch trials, because people who were suspected of being a witch were literally hunted down and burned at the stake. This was here in the United States that the Salem witch trials went down. And right now, I don't believe in witches. So the whole thing that people kept pointing out that this is a witch hunt, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, United States, we've invoked cancel culture to not just get people fired, but get people killed. And that's what cancel culture seems to be heading once again. It's going to get to the point where people are going to get killed. Like, or somebody's going to have somebody, like, people literally get shot for differences of opinions now these days. And now you're going to have a whole mob of people. Like, what happened I'm like, shoot, what happened January 6th was a form of cancel culture led by Donald Trump. I mean, how far is this going to go? How far are people going to go to silence the other side, when in fact that here in the United States, the two views coexist. They will forever be there, despite y'all beside both sides just tearing each other apart. Both sides will continue to exist beyond everything else. So it just seems like there's no room for discussion when it comes to when people have differentiating. I can't even say have differing views. I remember I made a post. And it's kind of going along with Gina making a post, but I didn't compare anything to the Holocaust. I made a post last year talking about my views about voting. And I saw that. I saw the responses, the feedback. I had never been insulted in my entire life over shit that was said to me from the safety of people's screens in response to what I had to say. I've probably said this before on past episodes. I've had the extreme part of that post that people expressed. One person did wish death upon me. You know, how she used it. I hope you don't make it through the pandemic. Yeah. All because I had a view at the time that it's funny, because I wound up changing my mind, not because, well, I changed my mind, but it was kind of like, not really, because I wound up I'm like, there was no candidate I wanted to vote for. I'm like, at that point, it was Trump versus Biden. I wanted no part of that, because I felt like both were leading us down into hell as far as how our country was going to go. And I voiced an opinion saying that, hey, I don't feel like I have a dog in this race. I'm not going to vote for anybody. Blah, 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 blah. And people felt the need to come to my post and call me ignorant. Like I said, wish death upon me. My statement was in ignorance. I was just like, really? I'm like, not one of y'all asked. I'm like, true ignorance is not understanding what's going on the other side before you make a statement. So when people was like, oh, you said this in ignorance and blah, 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 half of y'all didn't even really know who the fuck y'all were talking to. To be real, half of y'all didn't know who the fuck y'all were talking to. Y'all were looking into the mirror saying this shit to yourselves. That's the way I felt. Because most of you guys who called me ignorant for my views didn't ask me a single question. And I felt like with Gina Carano, just to bring it back to her, the same thing was brought about. Because here's a newsflash. She wasn't always a public speaker when it came to her political views. She just got into it at the beginning of 2020. She did an interview, and a lot of people probably never. She did an interview. She did an interview in January, 2 weeks before she was canned, in which she stated that last year was the first time she really got the nerve to get up and voice her views in politics. And the reason why she got into it was a very noble view. She saw other voices being silenced. Now, she probably always had these views, but never spoke publicly about them. And because of cancel culture and because censorship was in full swing, it made her speak even louder about it. So this was an opportunity to talk and discuss things with a person that was just getting into the public speaking aspect of it. And you guys on the left ruined it. Would have been a great discussion. But no, not only did you disagree with her views, you sought to have her fired. And you did this for a whole year. And the campaign was finally successful because last week she was canned. Congratulations, you really won something. You got a jar full of cookies that you can go home and eat now because you got somebody fired. Even though she still will continue on, Disney is not the end all be all. But I also feel like for having a difference of opinion, you could be blackballed. That's where the overreaching aspect of cancel culture is just wrong. Like, why can't it be just I disagree and move on? I'm like, half the people that people are threatening to cancel don't even speak. Half the shit that she says doesn't even affect you. I'm like, we're all connected, but we're meant to coexist and live amongst each other with different views and lifestyles. I'm like, that's what this country was brought up upon. But you want to get folks fired because they don't believe what you believe? That's nuts. It's like, if you don't believe what I believe, you're going to hell. I kind of reversed a lyric from Will Smith. He did in a song, Holy Roller. It was on I forgot which song. I showed Bills the other day. I played the lyric in front of it. Like, if you don't believe what it's like, I said it correctly. Not correctly, but I said it the way I wanted to say it. It was like, if you don't believe what I believe, you're going to hell. And it seems like it takes that statement a little further. And this is what cancel culture has gotten into. I'm like, you can't be like another overreaching factor. People who express different views and opinions and live in a different lifestyle often are not breaking a law in saying what they're saying. But yet, the way cancel culture works, it's like it's like being a vigilante of social justice. It's like somebody told a bad joke at a comedy club, and now you have to take it a step further and say, well, that joke offended such and such and blah, 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 instead of allowing that person to realize he or she told a bad joke and wanted to apologize for it. Or it just was like, it was a bad joke. I'm bad. I'm like, damn, you don't have to get me fired. You don't have to like go on this campaign in which you spend endless amounts of energy doing when, you could be doing something else. But it's just with Gina though, it's it's crazy. I know some people like I was saying earlier about, oh, you don't want to touch the Holocaust when it comes to comparison, but in her comparison, just going back, her comparison is exactly how cancel culture operates. It doesn't have a side. It can be what you think is for the greater good, which I'm sure the Germans thought it was for the greater good back then, and it blew up in their face big time. And it wouldn't be the first time in history that singling out a group of people and rounding them up. I'm like, hell, even though it wasn't the exact cause of the Tulsa riots that led to the burning down of the one and only major African American city, prosperous city in America, but because some woman told a lie, and a group of people who didn't believe, who already had the notion that black people didn't have a right to have a prosperous life in America, believed her story. They killed thousands of African Americans because they were fed a lie, which created a mob, and they already had the notion that this group of people needs to be silenced, canceled for whatever reason, and they did it. This cancel culture is just overreaching. It ends up blowing up in people's faces. I'm not a part of this cancel culture. I hate it because you can't really have an open discussion anymore. What was it? The Recently, Mr. Bean, the Rowan Atkinson, came out and said that with the silencing of opinions and this medieval mob looking for people to burn, where do ideas grow anymore? And the sad thing is, the mob is like, yeah, ideas will grow as long as they're our ideas. That's how it works. That's you guys that are out there canceling people. They have to, like, it's a dangerous situation. No winners. We all lose. And it's like you can't have an opinion. You can't tell like great jokes. I'm like, hell, Bills is probably sitting there like, damn, I wonder if I can say this in my song without offending anybody. Artists shouldn't have to have that worry. We shouldn't have to have that worry when we speak. I'm like, look, it's one thing if somebody tells me, hey, beforehand, before I speak, if they come to me and they're like, hey, I would appreciate that. I know you're a very opinionated person. I wish you wouldn't speak on this because it offends me. I already know it offends you. So I'm like, okay, I'll take that in consideration. Give me the chance to understand you. And then if I go and do it anyway, then you can come at me. But after that, I'm like, if it's just, what was it? Oh, that's crazy. Let me see here. Okay, so Bills is coming back in. And he just said, folks told me not to post any Black Lives Matter shit on my music page. I still did. And I'm like, that's why they call these people involved in cancel culture. That's why they also call them social justice warriors. And it's funny that even in the media, they value social justice over actual justice, like legal justice, like the laws. And I understand that, okay, inherently, most of the laws are racist. We have systemic racism in this country. It's in the courts, it's in the media, so it's in sports. Some may not want to believe it, but look at the NFL. Look at baseball. But we can't be out here getting people fired and they didn't do anything illegal. They said everything that's protected by the Constitution, even the right to offend, is protected in the Constitution. Because you can say something and not intend to offend. And I often, when it comes to how I judge what somebody says or how I view what somebody says, I often look at intent, which I don't think any of you motherfuckers tend to do anyway. Especially you come at me on Facebook for a post I had. Like, I could say some shit about Biden, and then it's just like somebody comes at me like, "Don't talk about him, bro." Blah 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 blah. I'm like, dude, you don't even have anything real to say. You're just like, don't talk about him like he's your father. And it's just like, but what's your problem? And can you defend what I'm talking about? And that also disappears. People don't, like, when I talk about people openly discussing the issues and the points, people don't really do that. They use the offense to get emotional about something that the other side probably didn't mean to offend you with. Use the offense as a weapon, as a tool to, like, engage in this cancel. I always say cancer because that's what it is. It's a cancer. I'm like, if you take the L out of cancel and you get rid of the rest of the words up into the R and then the E after it, that's what you get. It's a cancer. It's again, it's this overall, it's a dangerous trend, has been a dangerous trend. It's been used for centuries. It's been used since the beginning of time. Shoot, God even censored the dinosaurs. I know that sounds ridiculous, but where do you think the meteor showers came from? For you religious fanatics. None bigger shall roam the earth. I will shower thee with hell and brimstone, fire and smoke, blocking out the sun. So you should wither away and die. For alas, I created another form that shall roam the earth and engage in their own form of cancel culture. I will allow that until the next hell and brimstone fire I fire upon thee. So there. But I don't know. I like, just to go back to deplorable. Hold up, let me see. Okay, so Bills chimes in. Body positivity folks wanted to cancel Lizzo for trying to lose weight. And that's funny. And that's what I'm saying. Cancel culture takes up whatever cause that whoever sees fit. Whatever, and it's funny because it's like the social norm is to be healthy. Lizzo's trying to be healthy. She now realizes that not that what she engaged in was unhealthy, was that she probably had a health scare and didn't tell nobody. That had to do with her body, so she had to make changes. And it's like, people need bullies in their lives. They need some form of adversity. And I guess cancel culture is the bully right now. I think this is the adversity that we need. That folks like myself, Bills, Gina, Carano, and the thing is, it doesn't matter what political ideals we have. A bully is a bully, no matter if it's a liberal bully or a conservative bully, a Democratic bully, a Republican bully, a Libertarian bully. A bully is a bully. You know what we do with the bullies? Punch them in the fucking face. And keep doing it until they run and hide into the house. That's what I did to my bully. I urge others to do the same to their bullies. Whenever they have somebody that's trying to silence them, you fight back. You can fight with your words, but last resort, and this is how I deal with it. I usually fight with my words, but if I'm pushed into a corner, I'm fighting, and I don't fight fair. I will, yeah. Just know that, and to the person that did wish death upon me, fuck you, because that's you don't do that. You don't do that, and if obviously that person's not listening, but just know that I'm still here. I didn't, pandemic's not over yet, and I may be jinxing myself, but I'm still here. I made it. Did you? So, all right. And it was like, they make it seem okay to be fat until it's Donald Trump or anybody that they don't like. Then they call him fat, and it's laughable. Everything's laughable. Like I said, like with comedians not able to tell certain jokes. They tried to cancel Dave Chappelle. I thought that was hilarious. Because it's like you can't talk about the Holocaust in any comparison, even if you're making a legit comparison. You can't make fun of the LBGT community, whatever letter they want to add on afterwards. I'm like, we can make fun of straight people, make fun of black people, white people. Me, I don't even call it dark humor. I just find humor in a lot of things. There are things that I don't that there are certain things that I don't cross the line on, but you'll find me laughing at everything. Like racial jokes, I laugh at. I laugh at like short jokes. I engaged in telling short jokes a lot. Like I see a short person, but the thing is, I tend to like wait until I get to know them a little bit, so they know they won't take offense to the fact that I called them a midget. Yeah, and shoot, people have been canceled for calling people a midget. I'm like, scientifically, that's what they're called, midgets, dwarfs. Hello, and what other stuff that people like to cancel people on? I'm like, you got people who cancel people because of the type of video games they play. I'm telling you, cancel culture runs rampant in everything, and it's a cancer in society. It needs to be cut out. And if we don't treat this cancer soon, we will wither. This country, and probably because I don't see the rest of the world really engaging in. I think it's just here in the United States because I'm like, people here are soft, can't deal with the single. And it's funny because Saddam Hussein said it best. They can't stand the death of one person. That's why we can last longer in a fight, even though they lost because we used outright power to bomb the hell out of them. They could hide in caves forever, most of those fighters, and they're willing to die. But the moment that somebody holds a gun to our head, we're like, oh my god. So with words, as I translate that into how we are sensitive towards words, because I'm sure in a war we've beaten almost every nation except for Korea, because Vietnam, we didn't win that one. I wouldn't even call that one a draw. But I'll probably get canceled for that. I said some pretty damning things about certain political figures. Like I've already talked about Hillary Clinton. I think she's behind this. I believe she's behind Donald Trump. She's behind this whole thing that's going on. So, people would come after me and be like, Hillary Clinton's a saint. But like, if she were president for the past 4 years, there have been no deaths. I was like, no deaths you didn't hear about. See, Donald Trump was sloppy. He got all those people killed, and the bodies were there to be displayed. Hillary Clinton will hide the bodies. That's what she does. least that's what I believe. I could be proven wrong, but I don't think there's any evidence to prove or disprove of it. So what are you gonna do? You can't prove me wrong. I can't prove it to be 100% so. It's just my opinion. It's just your opinion. We can agree to disagree and leave it at that. I don't need to be fired because I believe that Hillary Clinton is responsible for, a bunch of deaths that we don't hear about. And I'm not going to go out of my way because I disagree with you or whoever you are because you think she would have been better as president for the past 4 years. I'm like, for me, it's just agree to disagree, and that's it. I'm not gonna assemble a mob to come after you and get you fired or get you like canceled from society. That's not why I like interact with people. Interact with people to understand the differences in us and not the similarities. Similarities, honestly, I take similarities for granted because you already think this way. Why revel in somebody who thinks the same way when there's plenty of people who think the same way? Are you willing to engage on an even ground and come to a compromise? So that's what's going to happen. You're not like, I look at politics and you have people that literally, the way it's a standstill in Washington is that one side wants it their way and that's it. The other side, same thing. That's not how this country is shaped right now. We have a bunch of people that live lifestyles that most of us probably would never exist in. You have rich people, and for us, for most of the normal Joes, we would never live that life. Vice versa. They probably were poor once, but it's been so long since they've been poor. I'm like, they probably don't even remember. You got, folks that live out in the Midwest that live a certain way that people here on the East Coast, on major cities, don't live. But these lives do exist. And the common bond between everybody is that they're trying to make a living so they can make their way through this life as successful as possible. And most tend to just disagree with the next person. And that's it. There's no need to become a social justice warrior in a war that honestly has never ended. Nothing's ever been settled by cancel culture, ever. It was a preliminary to see you joined in. Yeah, I feel like I've been rambling on for almost a whole hour. Not really an hour, because I didn't really start up until like 11 minutes in. But this is something that I felt like I needed to get off my chest because it's just, I'm sitting here, I'm looking, like I look on Twitter, I deal with my people on Facebook, they get on my fucking nerves half the time because they're actively involved in cancel culture and don't even realize it. It's crazy. I'm like, they feel like most people feel it's the right thing to do, but it's costing somebody their livelihood. And they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything illegal. They didn't offend you. They didn't seek to offend you. They didn't mean any harm by what they said. Now, some people may not take back what they said because they want to be able to stand by what they say. They want to back what they say and say, this is what I believe in. And that's it. I'm like, there are cultural differences. I'm like, you got folks in other cultures that believe that women should not have a certain place in society. That's that culture. We can agree to disagree on that. In this culture here in the United States, women should be on an equal platform with men, period. That's what I believe. Preliminary is like, don't deal with social media as toxic. But the thing is, social media spills on to real life. But the good thing is you find out who's really about that life. You find out that person that was threatening to get you fired, if you were to meet them in real life, wouldn't do shit. They would see you and they have no choice but to have a discussion with you because they don't really want to fight. They feel brave because they're behind a computer screen. I'm like, right now, I can honestly say I feel brave that I could talk behind. But I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. I really don't have to prove shit to anybody. I grew up in a time we didn't have this. We had to deal with people face to face. We had to resolve our conflicts with others, agree to disagree. We've had to fight each other physically. We fought each other with our words. Honestly, I have physically stood up for people who couldn't defend themselves. I'm sure he remembers because I actually saved him from a bully. I saved this person from a bully after school one day in elementary school. The bully was a person that wound up being a teammate on my high school football team when he was on the lineman. But people don't know how to come to a compromise, and then it's just like, okay, well, since I can't deal with what you're saying, sometimes it's like I can't deal with it logically, so I have to be illogical in my response. So that leads to, oh, I'm going to get you fired. I'm going to tell your employer about how you really feel about voting and whatnot. And it's, you know what? And it's funny because I've been in situations where I had a difference. I had a viewpoint while working. I remember I was working at the gym, that company, and a very controversial opinion I expressed in the middle of the floor of that gym because my job was to be like the ambassador to the club or whatnot, ambassador of the club, But also, my job was to get to know people, interact with people, and champion the company, but also get to know the people because the people was what made up that company. But we had people different viewpoints, different political viewpoints, cultural viewpoints, and whatnot. And I remember discussing what could have been considered a very offensive gesture or offensive subject, and that was the Washington Redskins. Talking about this was like early 2010s, so I think I was able to get away with it because people cancel culture wasn't really in full swing like it is now. But that wasn't, and I think this was when I had this discussion. This was before I even jumped on YouTube or whatnot. Twitter, it was before all of that. But having differences of opinion about the name. We had an open discussion in the center of the gym while I was on the clock. And nobody wanted me fired after. Well, they probably had thoughts of it, but no one said it to my face. And but the thing was, the way the conversation was handled was that I expressed that there may be some sensitivity. Like I gave a disclaimer about what I was about to say. So that gave people a heads up. But I also told them, look, because now it feels like you have to tell people, look, I don't mean to offend you, but this is what I got to say, to open up. Hopefully we don't get to the point where even when you try to warn people, hey, I have a difference of opinion, you may be offended or you may feel some type of way, but you have to hear me out and speak to the logic of it and respond to the logic and not the emotions of it. I feel like we're not even going to get to that point, and we're at that point where people are just going to engage in cancel culture warfare. And like I said, who says you're not next? You may have been a part of the mob, but as soon as you have a dissenting opinion, you're next. And then they're next, and they're next. And then who's going to be left? the hell out of me. All I know is that cancel culture is stupid. It needs to end. It's censorship. Doesn't end. And oh God, people who think it's not censorship, they are dumb as rocks. Censorship, like they feel like censorship has to be government coming from the government. What do you think social justice is all about? If it's not okay, if you're just silencing somebody, if you're going after them and trying to get them fired because they said something that was logically sound, but nothing illegal, didn't go as far as being racist or bigoted. I know with Gina Carano, they said wow, it was a reach. They actually said what she said was anti-Semitic, and I was just like, no. I read that comment, and she wasn't speaking against the Jewish people. That's wait a minute, hold up. What's going on? Is Wanted the movie? Because I cancel culture is like Wanted. Your name came up. Your name came up. Your name. Your name. I you're gonna have to explain that one to me. I don't get the reference. So, but yeah, but what Gina was saying was not anti-Semitic, not by a long shot. I'm like, and here's the other thing. You're not Jewish, so you wouldn't understand. Well, I'm African American, and I would understand. Let's just say that. And African Americans can be Jewish. I'm not Jewish, but I'm also African American. But as you can see, I'm African American. I can understand what it's like to be singled out, and I understand my people had to deal with it for hundreds of years, and it's still going on. So you remember Morgan Freeman passed out the docs of who to kill. I never seen the Wanted. I never seen Wanted. So that's why I'm saying I didn't see the movie, so I don't know the reference. I would have to watch the movie, but for those that want to know, it's the Morgan Freeman scene when he was passing out docs on who to kill. So I would probably have to watch it. I have to see if it's on any of my streaming services or whatnot. Morgan Freeman went around the room and said, your name came up to everyone. Basically, everyone's name was going to come up at some point. I'm like, I get it now that you explained it to me. I had never seen Wanted. So when you first said it, I was clueless. I was totally lost in what you were saying. So, I asked for clarification. See, that's another thing. What just happened just now is an example of what asking questions and asking for clarification does. Brings clarity, and it wasn't harmful, and obviously it wasn't going to be offensive because all Bills was talking about was a scene from a movie that I had never seen. So I'm thinking like I'm not going to get the reference because I've never seen the movie. I gotta see the movie because he made this reference. So, but if I had just immediately shut him down at the beginning, then that would have left a bad taste. And I was like, why am I bringing this shit up if you ain't gonna just watch it? Man, fuck this. So, all right, but also, like I said, it's also Q&A. So I definitely, what the original plan was? I wasn't going to spend a whole show talking about cancel culture, but, really just, this was an episode to let it fly. Because you really, honestly, you get tired of this shit. You really do. You sit there and I like to people watch. Whether if when the pandemic ends, I'm probably gonna make my way to DC and some other places and just watch and just sit and observe and just watch people how they go about. And it's interesting to see how people interact with each other. And it's funny that also within this cancel culture, people are nice to each other until they have a difference of opinion. People, because the same people who liked Gina Carano's portrayal of Cara Dune in The Mandalorian are the same people that try and get her canceled right now, all because she said what she said. There was another thing that popped up that I thought was ridiculous that they went after her on. I think this was one of the reasons why they started up going after her. They asked the actors and actresses on that show to put up their pronouns or whatnot. Now, everyone knows that people have their pronouns that they want to go by, and it's a gender identity thing. Some people don't want to be labeled, don't want to be held to a social construct of what gender is. And I remember I had a person explain to me their reasonings for not wanting the regular pronouns, but wanting the pronouns that they wanted me to. And I'm trying to be careful because I know this now about that person, so I don't want to offend them in saying what I'm saying. So I'm trying to get this out without mispronouncing that person. Because once we had this conversation, I understood. And this was what I was talking about earlier. As long as I know about something, if I were to do a certain thing that they don't like, then I will try my best not to do it. But they made it clear, and it was tough for them to have this conversation. But the conversation was had. There was an understanding from that. And I'm like, we're cool to this day. But Gina Carano, her situation was that in that moment about the pronouns, all the other actors and actresses, they put he, she, they, whatever they wanted to put. She put beep, boop, bop, beep, boop. That's all she put as her pronouns, which is hilarious because that's R2D2. But you had the crowd that was offended by it, and they chased her down for it, and that was ridiculous. It's like, how do you be like? And just outright, cancel culture is not inclusive. It's exclusionary by nature. It naturally excludes differences of opinions. So if you're part of cancel culture, if you do anything of the sort, you're not preaching inclusion at all. You may be preaching it, but you're not practicing it. So I don't want to hear anybody on my Facebook page when I say it, because I probably will post and say, well, if you are in favor of cancel culture, you are not in favor of inclusion, get the fuck out or whatever. I'm like, then if we're not going to practice inclusion, then I have a right to cancel your ass too. But I don't want to do that. That's why I don't block people. I don't mute people. As annoying, as disrespectful as people have been to me, I have not blocked them. I have not muted them. I probably said some things back, but as a grown man, I'm going to say some stuff back when somebody says something to me, especially some bullshit that people do say to me. Person, like I said, person wished death on me, and I have a right to respond to that. Somebody called me ignorant, I have a right to respond to that. You may not like it, but you came to my page and tried to insult my intelligence. So I have a right to defend myself. Don't get mad how I defend myself. You open the floodgates for that. So Subliminary is like, can't we all just get along? Hell no! That's the point. We're all not going to get along. You know, we're the way this life is that we're meant to coexist. We're not meant to agree on everything. But lifestyles are meant to coexist. We're all different. If we were all the same, it'd be a boring ass place, and we probably would not grow as a society. We grow from our differences, not our similarities. We gain strength in our similarities, but we grow based on our differences. Because the more you know about another person, the more you know about another person's experience, the more you know about another person's culture, identity, the better it makes you and the better it makes them. And don't people want to have that growth? You're not going to agree on these differences, but it's an understanding that could be reached that could better foster unity. And it's inclusionary. But nope, folks want to engage in cancel culture and they want to be exclusionary. They're not. I'm like, folks, preaching inclusion, practicing exclusions. That's crazy. Bill's was like, until folks can respectfully disagree, we can't all get along. It's not. We don't even have to get along, even if we can disagree respectfully. I'm like, it's just the fact that, hey, just leave it alone. Like, if if you're gonna bring harm to the other person because of a disagreement, then leave that person alone. Just get away. Preliminaries, like, we were never meant to take in so much information at once, especially negative ones. That's the technological problem and the social media problem. And I actually brought that up in a senior project when I graduated from UMGC in 2017. I brought that up as far as the political divide, and yeah, that I'm like, I would say, see, people want to blame Obama for certain things, but you can't. At the same time Obama became president was the same time social media took off. He literally was the first social media president as far as things. So when people became aware of racism in the form that it is now, whether they were in agreement or disagreement, they pinned it on Obama. I was like, no, blame Twitter, blame Facebook, blame big tech for feeding everyone all this information that we can't decipher all at once, and we wind up shutting down when we've had enough. And a lot of times the good stuff is after the factual stuff comes after we've had enough, that we shut down the information. All of a sudden, this is what we believe. If you guys check out that show, The Social Dilemma, that's on Netflix. I canceled my Netflix, but it's a documentary called Social Dilemma. That's actually it as far as what I'm talking about. The fact that these companies are out to shape your life and feed you the information that you have fed it through internet searches, through listening devices via like cell phone, or even the mic that's on, be viewed by the government through camera screens and other listening devices, your ALEXIA devices, and your series and your whatevers, help shape, what you get, what you experience on social media. Cable boxes too. Yeah, everything. Like this goddamn watch, that's now going the Fitbit, which is now going to be a part of Google. Imagine that, how much that is going to affect my tracking of my health. I'm like, they have a medical readout on me right now. They have a medical readout on anybody who has any fitness device on them. You get a heartbeat on you. I'm like, sometimes you wonder if you look at certain ads that pop up that relate to possibly something you may be experiencing health wise. Like, you can see that I am bald or balding, and it's no surprise that advertisements for hair loss companies pops up. It's, you got to think about that. So it makes you wonder. So let me get to the chat because we're going to wrap it up in a few, but it was nice to really just get that all out in the open. And it's funny because I'm glad you guys are here. But the guys that really should, the people that should be listening, with people that hurled insults at me, that wished death upon me, and so on and so on, because they felt brave that they were standing up for social justice and blah 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 blah, and all they were doing was issuing empty threats and reflective thought processes of themselves. Ah, boy. All right, so let me get to the chat. So I know I probably already mentioned this. Let's see, we were never meant to take. Yeah, I already popped this up, but that again, that is true. Bill's is like, and people on wide scale will never be able to respectfully disagree. Here's a curveball. Segregation is the reason. Legal segregation, design segregation. Yep, that is true. Preliminaries, like I remember working at an architectural firm. I made a huge mistake. A white guy at the firm stood up for me and covered my mistake. We can get along. I'll adjust that 50-50 because here's the thing. Was that person going to be affected if they didn't stand up for you? And how were they going to be affected? Because a lot of times you may think they're doing something noble, but they may be protecting themselves. I don't know what that situation is other than what you just told me. So I can only ask, and if I don't know if you know, because it's not like when stuff like that happens, you ask the guy like, "Hey, why'd you stand up for me? Oh, why'd you speak for me? Why'd you feel the need to defend me?" Like no one really asks those questions. So sometimes it's based on assumption that they did the right thing, but a lot of times there are nefarious plans at work. You have to just be aware. Not saying this person was, but you know. So, and then just bringing up cable boxes and stuff like that. All right, I'm actually about to wrap up. I had already. I'm like this. The whole. When you go back and view this, now again, I'm simulcasting on YouTube as well. Well, you're on there. That's where your icon is. So L on my part. But when you go back and view this, the whole thing, we like whether you've been tuned in or not, we've kind of ventured on the same thing. There's been like subplots, but I was actually in the phase of wrapping this up because I wasn't gonna go like an hour and a half into it. So, but I'd like to go back and thank everybody for coming through. Let me get rid of that because there's no longer a need for it. So let me just go back and thank everybody that showed up. I'm going to work backwards. So Bills, thank you for coming through. Preliminary. I know Mr. Ham was in for a quick moment. He had just finished the workout, so he was in for a moment early. That's it. So I know there were more people, but they were probably just in and out. So I'd like to thank everybody that came through. It's much appreciated. Definitely this was an episode to get a lot of stuff off the chest, get it out there, and hopefully you guys could take to your circles on what was talked about here. Just the end result, Gina Carano wound up getting fired by Disney, in which Disney has every right to hire and fire whoever they want. So there's no question there. So they did what they felt they had to do. And make no mistake about it, when companies do that, they're not doing it to appease the social justice warriors and whatnot. They're doing it because of money. She was going to affect their bottom line. So they're not doing you any favors. they're doing themselves a favor. So, hi, did you really win? No. So shut the fuck up. So, all right. So for those that are looking to find where I'm at in this social media world or whatnot, for those that are watching on Twitch, you can find me on YouTube. Those that are watching on YouTube can find me here on Twitch, EVO325. You can find me on Twitter. Everybody can find me on Twitter, DJ81. I'm easy to find. And you can also find me and Bills and VF on First and Frame Rates. We go live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:45-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Talk about sports and video games. And it's uncensored, unapologetic. This is not for social justice warriors to tune in, because we talk about everything. Nothing's off limits. That's how we roll. That's how it is. And people get roasted, people get flamed. You know, we've gone after each other at times, and it doesn't look pretty, but we all come out of it because we're all adults. I mean, we understand, we respect each other at the end of the day, and that's the way it should be. That's basically why I brought up what I brought up as far as tonight's show. So check us out over on VF Baller's channel. Again, First and Frame Rates is live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I will be back next week. With episode 18. Don't know what I'm going to talk about yet. I'm sure something will pop up. Things usually tend to pop up in this line of work or whatever, hobby. Anyway, but make sure you guys are locked in for episode 18, because meaning 18, 19, and then 20, and then I can take my break. Like I said, 10 episodes per quarter with 2 weeks off from this channel. I'll still be going through First and Frame Rates for those 2 weeks that I'm taking off from my own stuff. But other than that, it's been fun. I've been enjoying this format on StreamYard. I would like to get it set up where I get my music back, because when I had the music playing, I hate this dead silence. Maybe I have to have it playing in the background, but I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work out. Oh yeah, one more thing. Make sure you check out I Like to Write, and it's not going to be scheduled how often I'm going to write, but you know, every now and then I do post to my blog site, so check it out, dj81.org. And yeah. So again, thank you guys for coming through. Hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. I wish there were more questions. There was a lot of input as far as the subject of cancel culture. It is a cancer, and it needs to be cut out. I think that's, at the end of the day, that needs to happen, because this country will not grow until we get rid of the cancer. And that cancer is cancer. I knew I was going to fuck it up. Cancel culture is the cancer that needs to be cut out. Now, on that note, you guys take it easy. Peace.